Speaking to be understood. What I hope this is going to do is look at how we can communicate effectively to create connection. Today we're going to look at how we talk. How we talk to create connection. Connection, challenge, contribution, celebration. They're the things I believe that make men function well. I'm afraid you'll never understand me fully, and because of that, sometimes you'll be frightened, disgusted, annoyed, or pleased. Jack Kerouac. Today we're going to look at how we talk to create connection. And we're going to spend about 10 minutes on that. So I think there's really six rules to how to communicate, how to speak clearly so that your needs, so that you're understood, so that you can have your needs met. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at those 6 things. We're going to break them down. I'm going to give examples. So first of those, really the first way to communicate effectively, how to speak to be understood, is to pause. It's just simple pause and check in with yourself. So think about what it really is I'm trying to communicate, where I'm really coming from, and what's really going on for me. What am I really trying to say before it all starts coming out? And that stops those kind of snap things where it comes out as anger, but really you're hurt. Right? Take a moment just to check in what's going on for you before it all starts coming out your mouth. What is it you're really trying to say? Try and learn to be precise with your language. Don't mean shut yourself down to a stage where everything has to be thought through a million times before you speak, but just kind of, what is it actually you're trying to say, and what's the most effective way you can try and say it? What's your outcome? Okay. So part 2 of that is use I statements. Now, I'm sure loads of you have seen stuff around I statements. In case you haven't, what an I statement is an I statement is when I speak for myself. So what I'm sure a lot of you will resonate with is, especially if you're kind of going to watch TV and stuff like that, you'll see celebrities or footballers or whatever, and they're speaking, and they're not speaking for themselves. So they'll say something like, well, you know what it's like when you're walking down the road and someone bumps into you and they look at you like you're a bit of an idiot. Well, what they're doing is they're making it about everyone else apart from them. It's very different from saying, you know what it's like when I was walking down the road, someone bumped into me and it made me feel like I'm a bit of an idiot. Right? It's different when I speak for myself. So when someone says something like, well, you know, when you get angry, you do just behave like that, don't you? I don't know. Do you? Well, it's much more effective when I say, when I'm angry, sometimes I behave in that way. It gives responsibility and it makes it about me. So I encourage you, wherever possible, if you're speaking for yourself, to use I statements. And it's tricky because we're trained not to. So go out today as a little test and see and listen to people speaking when they're having a row on the phone or when they're just talking. It's always about we, us, you. It's often about you. You know, when you get really pissed off when someone does that to you, I don't know. Tell me how it is for you. And practice it today. Go out and try and, when you feel that, when it's about you, really say it and use I statements to speak for yourself. And you'll see that it's really effective. It's a really effective way of doing it. The other part to that, so part 3, is really about separating facts from thoughts and feelings. And now a lot of this stuff needs a lot more detail than I can give it here. So I'll revisit these actually in a bit more detail. I think that's the best way to go ahead. But really, I'm just trying to give you these six tips, really, that have worked for me. So yeah, tip 3 is separate fact from thoughts and feelings. So if you take the example of someone walking down the road and get bumped into, what you may hear someone say is, you know what it's like when someone bumps into you when you're walking down the road and they look at you like you're an idiot, and you feel like they think you're an idiot, right? It pisses you off, right? No, there's no ownership in there. Yeah, first of all, no I statements, and there's no separation of the fact, the thought, and the feelings. So I was walking down, someone bumped into me and looked at me like I'm an idiot, and then I got pissed off. Could easily be translated to, I was walking down the road, someone bumped into me and looked at me, and I thought they looked at me like I was an idiot, and I felt angry. And there's a complete difference in that. It's a complete difference in doing it that way. There was a fact, right? The fact was someone bumped into me and they looked at me. The fact that I made up a story, they're looking at me like I'm an idiot, I don't know that. That could actually be just a story that I'm making up about that situation because of how I'm feeling today or because of past experiences. So the only fact in there was that someone bumped into me and someone looked at me. The rest of it is a story that I'm making up. And we'll go into that a lot deeper, but if in the first instance I can just separate those and go, that's the fact, and the thought I had was that he was looking at me like I'm an idiot. That's the story that I made up about that situation, right? That's a very different thing. You know, that's a very different thing to making it a fact. And you're leaving space for the feeling. So I felt like he looked at me like I'm an idiot. That's not a feeling. There's not an emotion that is that, right? You may have felt angry because of that. You may have felt scared because of that, right? You may even think it's funny, depending on what your experience has been. But you didn't feel they looked at you like I'm an idiot. You told yourself a story. They looked at you like you're an idiot. And then based on that, and based on past experiences and what you bring to it, you had an emotional response, which may have been anger. So when you start separating it like that, and you start adding those elements, including the I statements, you get from what I'm sure you'll hear is quite common of someone saying, you know when you're walking down the road, I had this thing today where, you know when you're walking down the road and someone bumps into you and they look at you like you're an idiot and you get really pissed off, right? I felt like he was just looking at me like I'm a fool and I got really pissed off. That turns into, I was walking down the road and someone bumped into me and looked at me. And in that moment, I made up a story that they were looking at me like I'm an idiot. And I got really angry about that. I felt really angry about that. It's a completely different way of communicating that. And what you'll experience, I'm sure, if you start practicing it like that, is the person understands, the person you're talking to understands what you're trying to say. And that's the important part of creating connection, is when we make it about you, when we make it a big tangle of, well, you know, and assuming, we create distance from each other because the person really doesn't understand what we're saying. We just assume they are. We're not using any clarity of communication. So when I switch it around and I start using those things, suddenly that person can understand me. Because suddenly they get, one, I'm talking about me, right? So there's a connection there instantly. And two, they know what actually happened, what the thought I had around it? What was the story? What was going on for me around it? And how I felt. And as soon as you start using that, breaking it down, you'll notice that connection becomes easier because the person actually has a chance of grabbing on to what you're trying to say and actually get involved rather than it being about them, about who, about we, what happened, he did what. It turns their brain from trying to find more answers to actually just listening to you. So it's a really valuable thing to do. What I was about to go on to there was part 4, which is clarity of emotion. And you'll see I switched from, and I felt pissed off, to I felt angry. Right? Because what happens is, not only do we often start to confuse thoughts with feelings, so I felt he looked at me like I was an idiot, right? Which is a thought, not a feeling. But we're not very clear about what those emotions are. So, do you know what? I felt like he was mugging me off. There you go. Felt like he was making me an idiot. Felt like he was trying to make me small. Felt like he was trying to put me down. Or I feel a bit weird today, right? Or I'm just pissed off, cheesed off. I'm feeling confused. Well, you don't feel confused, right? You are confused. That's a state of mind. You're not having clarity of thought today. And when you don't have clarity of thought, how do you feel? You might feel angry with yourself. You might feel fearful because where's my faculties gone? I'm not really sure what's going on, right? So that clarity of emotion is really, really important, right? 4 is really important. Be clear about your emotions, and we'll go into this. I'll record something purely about that because you need a good 20 minutes just on that. But like pissed off, all them things we use, that's angry, right? Like, yeah, pleased, a bit chipper, like it's all right. That's happy, right? That's joy. A bit weird. Feel a bit weird today. Yeah, something's not quite right. I'm a bit on edge. Right? That's fear, right? It's fear. Simple fear. Right? So try and break them down to what they actually are. Happy, sad, scared, angry. Usually when I'm feeling something, it's one of those. So try and break it down to those. You will see the difference in connection you create when you say, yeah, I was really pissed off, or he looked at me like I was an idiot. The person you're talking to will understand you much clearly when you say, I felt angry. And you'll see the connection because they know what anger means. Right? So you're giving them a chance to feel it too, to create that connection with you. And that goes the same with fear. I invite you, next time you feel fear and you're talking to someone about that, to use that word and see the difference it makes when you say, and I felt fear, or I felt scared. Right, rather than, oh, it weren't quite right, I was feeling a bit, ooh. Right? I felt fear. Same with joy. I'm really happy to see you. I bumped into my friend and I felt a load of joy because I ain't seen him for ages. It's just the difference that feels in people because it's just simple. And we know those emotions, so you create connection. And it all goes down to creating that connection. You'll give by giving people a chance to understand what you're actually saying. You're giving connection a chance. You're relating it to a human experience that we can all understand. It's about me. When I'm talking about me, that means it's me and you in that conversation, not the rest of the world. You know, when I tell you the difference between what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what actually happened, you get to build up a clear story about what went on for me. And when I'm clear about my emotions, you know what I felt. When I say I felt angry, you've got a chance of knowing what I mean. When I say I felt sad, you've got a chance of knowing what I mean. When I say I felt fear, you've got a chance of knowing what I mean. Yeah? So as I say, I'll do a little something about emotions because it's a really important one. Five is a really important one and a really difficult one. Self-awareness. So that's going to take more practice. And what I mean by self-awareness is be aware of what you're bringing to the conversation. Be aware of what you're bringing to the conversation, what's going on for you. Right? Because sometimes when I'm talking, you're going to have a very different experience of me on one day to the next because of where I am. Right? So it's important that I have awareness of that. And also, if we take the situation, what happened there with the person bumping into you or me, right? It's very important for me to know what I brought to that. Yeah, because that starts going into that story that I went to, someone looking at me like I'm an idiot, right? Or maybe that person didn't, right? Maybe just what happened is because of the day I'm having, or because of what happened in the past, that's what I brought to it, the situation, right? That's what I'm bringing to it. Yeah, maybe he didn't look at me like I was an idiot, right? Maybe he wasn't thinking that at all. Maybe this was like, I wonder who he is, right? Might have thought he recognised me. But because he had a look that maybe shared a similar expression to a teacher who used to put me down at school, he's going to get that. I'm going to make up that story about him because it reminds me of that. And that's happening when we're talking to a community. If I'm talking to you, and maybe it's a heated subject, maybe it's just an impassioned subject, whatever it is, right? Maybe we're just shooting the breeze. But you might be saying things that have an effect on me, right? And I can start telling myself all sorts of stories about what you're saying. And that can shut me down. And we start to lose that connection again. So I have to be aware of where I am and what's going on for me while I'm communicating. So self-awareness is really important. Where am I? What sort of state am I in? And how's that affecting the communication I'm going to have now? And should I choose to make the other person aware of it? You know, that time when you've been really distracted and you've bumped into someone and now it's just not the time, but you're too polite to say, maybe to say it. I've got this stuff going on for me right now, and I'm not going to be able to give you the attention I want to give you. So could we meet up at another time? Right? Or maybe I'm really angry now, so this ain't going to come out as clearly as I want to. So maybe we should just deal with this a bit later on. Okay. 6. Seek verification. So all that we've done in this last 20 minutes has been around me trying to speak so the person who's listening to me has a chance of understanding me, and that understanding creating connection by them knowing what's going on for me. And a lot of that is about taking away the assumption that they know what I mean, right? And making it clear so they do know what I mean. So the final part of that is still, at the very end, do not assume they've understood what you said. So seek verification, right? And this can seem a bit weird at the beginning when you're first trying it out, but after a while it becomes natural and you can just slip it in. So when you've finished talking to the person, maybe just recap. So how did that land with you? What did you understand? Do you feel you understand what I was talking about? What did you hear? You know, seeking feedback and verification. Really important in professional situations, especially, and we're more used to doing it in professional situations where you've had a conversation at the end. You go, right, okay, so let's recap. What did we hear? Can we agree on that? You know, like people take minutes and then you agree to minutes. It's almost like that in the conversation. You know, and you don't have to make it like robotic or formulaic, but it's really good to just recap. Thank you for listening. Did you understand Do you think you got a grasp of what I was trying to say? Or do you want to feed back to me what you thought I said? Right? Because what we're doing is we're assuming. I often assume that the person I'm talking to has understood what I've tried to say. And it gives me a chance to kind of just clean it up if that isn't the case. Okay, so seek verification. So, okay, I hope I've been clear. First of all, sometimes I'm not clear when I communicate. And these things I'm trying to do, I don't spend ages sitting down and drafting them. I just got to come and talk and get it out in the hope that they're going to be useful to you and that there's some energy in them for me. I don't want it to be a chore. So let's just recap on what I talked about. So what I was trying to get over to you is, how can we talk in a way that creates connection rather than distance, in a way that means I have a chance of having my thoughts and my needs understood, right? So how do I do that? 6 ways, right? I pause and I get clear about what I'm trying to say. Number 2, I use I statements. I speak for myself. 3, I separate fact from thought and feeling. Number 4, I'm clear about what my feelings are. If I'm angry, I say I'm angry. If I'm sad, I say I'm sad. If I'm joyful, I say I'm joyful. If I'm fearful, I say I'm fearful. Number 5, I'm self-aware. I'm aware of what's going on for me at the time and how that may affect how I'm communicating and how I'm presenting myself. And I'm also aware of what of my history I'm bringing to that conversation, so that I can bring it out in front of me and it's not driving the conversation. 6, I seek verification. I give the person a chance to feed back to me what they heard, and so I can make any adjustments that we need, so I'm sure that we've got what's going on between us. So again, these things feel weird, first of all, but I tell you, you can soon get a hang of doing it where it don't feel robotic and it feels more human. And what you'll get at the end of it is commune in action. You'll find that when you're talking, it's bringing you together because you're giving that person a chance to understand what you're really trying to say. So I hope that's useful. And yeah, let me know if it is. Let me know if it is. You leave a. I'm sure there'll be somewhere to leave a comment. I don't make these. Tony makes all these. He's much cleverer than me at things like this, so I'm sure there'll be somewhere you can leave a comment. And check back. As I said, I'm going to do something tomorrow. I think I'll do something around emotions. So if you're interested in that, come back and hear what I have to say. All right. Peace out. Take care.